Earth does not build its greatest landscapes quickly. Some are shaped by water, some by ice, some by fire, and some by forces so slow that an entire human civilization can pass without noticing the change. But across the planet, those quiet processes have produced places that seem almost impossible. Tonight, we begin at number 20. And by number 1, we will be looking not simply at beautiful places, but at the forces that made them. At number 20, water appears to have turned an entire hillside into white stone. Pamukkale in southwestern Turkey is formed by mineral-rich thermal waters. As hot spring water emerges and its chemistry changes at the surface, calcium carbonate is deposited, creating terraces, pools, and petrified-looking cascades. The ancient city of Hierapolis grew beside this extraordinary geological system. What looks frozen is actually a process still connected to moving water. The landscape is not simply something the Earth created long ago. It is something the Earth continues to make. At number 19, the desert meets the ocean. The Namib is extraordinary because its vast coastal dunes exist in a hyper-arid environment where fog is the primary source of water. Moisture arrives from the Atlantic, while wind, rivers, and ocean currents have helped transport sand across enormous distances. Here, survival depends on an atmosphere that barely seems to contain any water at all. The dunes move, the fog moves, and life has learned to move with them. At number 18 is an island where isolation became an evolutionary force. Socotra lies in the northwest Indian Ocean. Its long separation has produced extraordinary levels of endemism. UNESCO records 37% of its plant species, 90% of its reptiles, and 95% of its land snail species as found nowhere else. The famous dragon blood trees are only the visible clue. The deeper story is evolution itself. Separate a lineage from its relatives, give it different conditions, then give it time. Eventually, geography can become biology. At number 17, mountains appear to have drowned in the sea. Halong Bay is a vast karst landscape where limestone towers rise from coastal waters. The geological story involves the long evolution of limestone terrain, dissolution, erosion, and marine flooding. What appear to be isolated islands are remnants of a much larger landscape. The valleys disappeared beneath the water. The higher limestone survived, and the sea entered the spaces between them. At number 16, the landscape disappears beneath our feet. Inside Jeita Grotto, water has worked through limestone to create an underground world of passages, chambers, and mineral formations. Rainwater enters the ground, interacts chemically with soil and rock, and follows fractures through the limestone. Over immense periods, those pathways can become caves. The visitor sees a chamber. Geology sees a history of water. Every drop is part of a much longer process, and in darkness, the mountain reveals a landscape that was always there. At number 15, ice becomes a sculptor. Across Patagonia, glaciers descend from the southern Andes, carving valleys, shaping lakes, and leaving enormous signatures across the landscape. A glacier may appear motionless. It is not. Ice flows, rock is removed, valleys deepen, and landscapes are repeatedly redrawn. Patagonia is therefore not simply a place of mountains and ice. It is a landscape still being shaped by them. At number 14, a dark circle interrupts the turquoise Caribbean. The Great Blue Hole is a spectacular marine sinkhole formed from an ancient cave system that developed when sea levels were lower. Its deepest chambers preserve evidence of that earlier landscape. Today, from above, it looks almost impossibly blue. From below, it reveals something stranger, a cave that was once part of a landscape beneath the sky, now hidden beneath the sea. 7 wonders down, 13 remain. And now the Earth becomes larger still. At number 13, a mountain rises from the African plains almost alone. Kilimanjaro is a volcanic massif built from 3 volcanic cones, Kibo, Mwenzi, and Shira. Its great height creates distinct environmental zones, from cultivated land and forest to alpine terrain. It is a reminder that mountains can be built by fire. Magma rises, lava cools, layers accumulate. Kilimanjaro is therefore a meeting point between deep earth processes and the atmosphere above them. At number 12, mountains have been carved into the sea. Piopiotahi, known as Milford Sound, is a fjord created through the action of glaciers on the rugged southwest of New Zealand's South Island. Ice once filled these valleys. It moved slowly but with enormous force, grinding and plucking rock. Today, rain falls from cliffs into dark water, and waterfalls appear almost directly from the clouds. At number 11, geology becomes life. The Serengeti is a vast savanna shaped by rainfall, drainage, soils, and volcanic influences. Its annual migration moves enormous herds across the ecosystem in search of pasture and water. Volcanic material contributes to fertile soils. Rain determines where grass grows. Grass determines where herds move. And the movement of herds reshapes the ecosystem in return. At number 10, volcanoes created an evolutionary laboratory, the Galápagos Islands. Life arrived. Populations became isolated on different islands. Evolution followed different paths. The result is a landscape where geography can be read in the bodies and behaviors of living species. At number 9, an ancient lake has left behind an immense white landscape, Salar de Uyuni. When rain covers the salt crust with a shallow layer of water, the horizon can disappear. Earth and sky seem to merge, but beneath that mirror is a geological archive of vanished water. At number 8, a river reaches a geological threshold and falls. Iguazú stretches across a broad basaltic escarpment. The spectacle is enormous. Water exploits weaknesses. Basalt resists in some places and yields in others. And every second of falling water is part of a much older geological process. At number 7, an entire continent becomes a record of climate. Antarctica is not simply white wilderness. Beneath the ice lies a continent of mountains. Above it sits an enormous frozen reservoir built through repeated accumulation of snow. Ice flows outward under its own weight. Crevasses open. Glaciers move toward the coast. Ice shelves float. Antarctica is both landscape and archive. Its ice preserves evidence of Earth's climate history, and today it tells the story of our future. At number 6, the forest becomes part of the atmosphere. The Amazon is often described as a vast collection of trees, but its significance lies in the system connecting forest, soil, rivers, and air. Water enters as rain. Plants absorb it. Leaves release moisture back into the atmosphere. That moisture can be transported and contribute to further rainfall. Rivers carry water and sediment across the basin. The forest is therefore not simply receiving the climate, it participates in it. And that makes the Amazon more than a landscape. It is a living component of a continental water cycle. At number 5, a river disappears into a narrow fracture in the earth. Victoria Falls lies on the Zambezi River. Water crosses a basalt landscape and plunges into a deep gorge. The falls are not simply one wall of water. The Zambezi has exploited geological fractures in the basalt, cutting and extending a series of gorges through the landscape. The waterfall we see today is therefore one moment in a much longer retreat. Water falls, rock fractures, the river advances. And slowly, the landscape moves backward through time. At number 4, the landscape itself seems to glow. The aurora begins far beyond the ground beneath our feet. Particles carried by the solar wind interact with Earth's magnetic environment. The colors are not flames. They are atmospheric emissions. The sky is responding to the sun. For a few minutes, a process occurring hundreds of kilometers above Earth becomes visible to human eyes. The aurora is therefore a reminder that Earth is not isolated. It is continuously interacting with space. At number 3, continents collide. Everest stands within the Himalaya, a mountain range created by converging tectonic plates. The summit is not simply a pile of rock. Its rocks contain evidence of ancient marine environments uplifted to extraordinary elevations. The mountain exists because Earth's crust is still moving. That movement is almost imperceptible to us, but over millions of years it can raise seafloor sediments into the highest mountains. It is a visible expression of continental collision. At number 2, an ecosystem builds its own landscape. The Great Barrier Reef is an enormous interconnected marine system. Its architecture is built by organisms that extract materials from seawater to create limestone structures. Generation after generation adds to it, but the reef is also vulnerable. Coral responds to heat, chemistry, and storms. Here, life is constructing the landscape. And at number 1, we arrive at a place where the Earth seems to have opened its own history book, the Grand Canyon. Its walls expose layers of rock containing hundreds of millions of years of geological history. The canyon is much younger than those rocks. The Colorado River has played a central role in its incision. Major incision occurred over millions of years. The canyon compresses Earth's story. Ancient seas became rock, rock was lifted, rivers flowed, land eroded, climates changed. The canyon reminds us that permanence is an illusion. The cliffs appear immovable, but the river has time. From water building stone to fog sustaining life, from mountains drowned to glaciers. The lesson is that Earth's wonders are processes made visible. The planet is not a finished object. It is still moving, still building, still breathing. And everywhere we look, the landscape is telling us what Earth has been doing, and quietly, what it is still doing.